Y'all, something unthinkable just happened in the Harris family, and the internet cannot stop talking about it. When news broke that King Harris, the son of rap legend T.I. and reality star Tiny, had undergone an emergency brain surgery, fans were worried. But now the story has spiraled into something far darker than anyone could have imagined. Sources claim the operation didn't just go wrong. It's turned into a full-blown medical scandal that has the FBI knocking on hospital doors and doctors being dragged out in handcuffs. That's right, what was supposed to be a routine neurological procedure has exploded into accusations of negligence, tampering, and cover-ups. Whispers from inside the hospital suggest there was more too. King's surgery then meets the eye. Mysterious medical files gone missing. Frantic nurses silenced, and a family tearing apart under pressure. Fans are stunned. The internet is on fire. And behind closed doors, the Harris household is said to be falling apart. Did someone sabotage King's surgery? Are the doctors really guilty? Or is this all part of a much bigger setup? Stay tuned, because what's coming next will shock you to your core. The news broke like wildfire, spreading through every corner of social media before the family could even catch their breath. Whispers turned into full-blown hysteria. Fans scrolled in disbelief as pictures of King Harris lying in a hospital bed, connected to wires and machines, flooded the internet. The caption read, "Urgent surgery, pray for King." What no one expected was that the next 24 hours would change everything. People close to the family described chaos inside the hospital that night. Tiny was reportedly sobbing in the hallway, clutching her phone as T argued with a team of doctors behind closed doors. Witnesses claimed his voice echoed down the sterile corridor, filled with fury and fear. "You're telling me this was a mistake? My son's fighting for his life, and you call it a complication?" he shouted, slamming his hand against the wall. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Nurses exchanged anxious glances while security tried to keep reporters out of the building. Fans who'd followed King's journey from his rebellious teenage years to his recent music career couldn't believe what they were hearing. What kind of surgery had gone so wrong that the FBI would get involved? And why did hospital staff seem so nervous? One nurse, speaking anonymously, told an online tabloid it wasn't just a medical issue. There was something weird about the way his file disappeared right before surgery. "Someone changed something, I swear." Her statement sent chills down everyone's spine. By morning, the media frenzy had reached unbearable levels. Outside the hospital gates, cameras flashed non-stop. Journalists shouted questions at anyone walking by. Is King Harris in a coma? Did T threaten the doctors? Is this connected to the missing files? The family remained silent, their representatives refusing to comment. But silence only fueled speculation. Social media detectives began piecing together clues from old live streams, cryptic tweets, and leaked voice notes allegedly from someone inside the hospital. That's when things took an even darker turn. Rumors spread that King's surgery hadn't even been necessary. Some said it was a misdiagnosis. Others whispered that someone had tampered with his test results to make it look like he needed the operation. One viral tweet claimed this wasn't an accident. They wanted him on that table. No one knew who they were, but the implication was chilling. Behind the scenes, T was reportedly losing it. According to a family friend, he refused to leave the hospital for days. He kept saying he didn't trust anyone, the friend revealed. He told Tiny, "Somebody set us up. This ain't no random medical mistake." Tiny tried to keep the family together, but even she started to break under the pressure. Paparazzi caught her leaving the hospital late one night, tears streaming down her face, muttering, "Why King? He's just a boy." Meanwhile, King's condition remained unstable. Doctors said he was in a medically induced coma to help reduce swelling in his brain. Fans flooded his Instagram comments with prayers, while others speculated about what could have led to the surgery in the first place. One fan wrote, "King's been wilding out lately, but nobody deserves this. Something's not right." Another replied, "They better investigate that hospital. Too many celebrities having complications," and investigate they did. The following day, unmarked black cars were seen pulling up outside the hospital. Men in dark suits entered through the back entrance, escorted by local police. By the evening, it was confirmed the FBI had officially opened an investigation into alleged medical negligence and data tampering at the facility. The internet exploded. FBI, that means it's serious. One comment read. Another user posted, what did they find in those files? Hashtags like #JusticeForKing and #HarrisFamilyTruth began trending within hours. Conspiracy channels on YouTube uploaded videos dissecting every second of footage from outside the hospital. Claiming to find hidden clues about what really happened, inside the atmosphere was suffocating. T reportedly confronted the head surgeon, Dr. Mason, demanding answers. Witnesses said T's voice trembled as he spoke, his anger barely masking his fear. You said he'd be fine. You said this was simple. Now you're telling me his brain's swelling because of a mistake? Dr. Mason stammered, insisting they'd followed all procedures correctly. Sometimes complications happen unexpectedly, he said quietly. But T wasn't buying it. Unexpected, or covered up. He hissed. Tiny stepped between them, her voice shaking. Please, just fix my baby, she begged. The surgeon promised they were doing everything possible, but the trust was gone. Family members began arriving, each one more distraught than the last. Zonique, King's older sister, broke down in tears in the waiting room, while family friends tried to console her. He's strong, baby, one whispered. He's going to make it. But in the midst of the family's grief, something even stranger happened. An anonymous email was sent to several news outlets with the subject line, Proof of Tampering. Attached were screenshots of what looked like hospital records, edited timestamps, erased entries, and a doctor's note that had been digitally altered. Within hours, the files went viral. Nobody could confirm their authenticity, but the timing was too perfect to ignore. The hospital released a brief statement, claiming the documents were fabricated and defamatory. But the damage was already done. Fans flooded the hospital's social media pages with angry comments, accusing them of corruption and demanding justice for King. Protesters even began gathering outside, holding signs that read, Protect our patience and truth for King Harris. Chaos built outside. Inside the hospital, T and Tiny faced their worst nightmare. Doctors warned that King's condition had taken a sudden turn. He was no longer responding to certain treatments. Tiny reportedly collapsed upon hearing the news. T held her close, whispering, he's gonna pull through. He's my son. He's a fighter. Meanwhile, the FBI agents had quietly begun questioning staff members. Whispers of arrests circulated through the building, but nothing was confirmed yet. One nurse was seen being escorted out the back door in tears, muttering, I didn't know what they were doing. Online, theories ran wild. Some claimed a rival artist crew had somehow orchestrated the mishap to silence King, who'd been preparing to release a controversial new track exposing industry secrets. Others believed it was an insurance fraud scheme gone wrong, and a few thought it was something even more sinister, a targeted hit disguised as a medical error. Through it all, King's fans refused to give up hope. Vigils were held outside the hospital. Candles flickered in the night as hundreds of young people gathered, singing his songs and praying for his recovery. News outlets captured heartbreaking footage of Tiny stepping out to thank the crowd. Her voice barely audible as she said, Thank you for loving my baby. But just as the world seemed to rally behind the Harris family, a shocking twist sent everyone reeling. Late that night, a local news station received leaked footage from inside the hospital's security system. Footage that appeared to show one of the surgeons deleting files from a computer hours before the surgery began. The clip was grainy, the figure's face partially hidden, but the timestamp and location matched perfectly. Fans went into meltdown. They caught them red-handed. One tweet read, This is bigger than we thought, another replied. Within minutes, the video had millions of views, and that's when it happened. Before dawn, FBI agents raided the hospital in full force. Witnesses said the scene looked like something out of a movie. Agents in bulletproof vests storming through the corridors, seizing computers and escorting doctors into black vans. Outside, cameras flashed as the word spread fast across every platform. FBI arrests multiple doctors in connection with King Harris' case. The world held its breath. Inside a dark hospital room, King's machines beeped steadily, the only sound breaking the silence. His family gathered around him, holding hands, praying for a miracle, unaware that the next revelation would turn their world upside down once again. And that's where everything changed. Tiny's hands trembled as she sat beside King's hospital bed, her eyes swollen from crying. The room was dim, lit only by the soft flicker of machines keeping rhythm with her son's heartbeat. T stood near the window, staring into the darkness outside, his jaw clenched tight. The silence between them was heavy, filled with everything they couldn't bring themselves to say. "They arrested them," Tiny whispered finally, her voice hoarse. "The doctors, they really took them away." T didn't answer. He just nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving the window. He muttered, "But that don't mean it's over. Something bigger's going on here. I can feel it." Earlier that morning, the headlines had exploded. Every outlet in the country carried the same shocking words. FBI arrests surgeons in King Harris's case. Investigation reveals medical malpractice and possible tampering. Fans were in disbelief. Celebrities began posting their support for the Harris family, while others demanded transparency from the hospital. But as the story grew, so did the confusion. Some sources claimed the doctors were framed. Others insisted the evidence against them was undeniable. Videos of the arrests went viral, showing the lead surgeon, Dr. Mason, being escorted out in handcuffs, his face pale and terrified. As reporters screamed questions, he only said one thing: "You don't understand. It wasn't supposed to go like this." That single line sent shockwaves across the internet. What did he mean by that? What wasn't supposed to go like this? Inside the hospital, the family's emotions were all over the place. Zonique was furious, demanding to see the hospital's director. "You people let this happen to my brother," she snapped at a trembling administrator. "You knew something was wrong, and you did nothing." Security had to step in, gently escorting her away as Tiny broke down again. Meanwhile, T met privately with one of the FBI agents leading the case. Agent Morales, a stern woman with sharp eyes and a calm voice, laid out what they knew so far. "Mr. Harris," she said, "we've discovered that several of your son's medical records were altered before the surgery. Someone changed dosage levels and diagnostic details. This was deliberate." T's stomach dropped. "Deliberate? You mean somebody wanted to hurt my son?" "We can't confirm motive yet," Morales replied. "But based on the digital trail, whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. They covered their tracks almost perfectly." He leaned back, rubbing his temples. "Almost perfectly," he repeated under his breath. The next few hours felt like a nightmare that wouldn't end. Family members came and went, offering hugs, prayers, and support. Fans continued to gather outside, chanting King's name, holding up signs that read "Justice for King" and "Hold them accountable." The energy outside the hospital was electric, angry, emotional, and unified. But inside, something even more shocking was unfolding. An anonymous source had sent another email to several major news networks, this time with a short audio clip attached. In it, a man's voice believed to be one of the surgeons could be heard arguing with someone just hours before the surgery. "We can't do this," the man said. "The scans don't match the report," a second voice replied coldly. "Just follow the instructions. Everything's been cleared. You'll get your payment after the procedure." The clip was only 20 seconds long, but that was enough. The public went insane. Payment? Cleared by who? Who's paying these doctors? Comments flooded social media by the thousands. People demanded to know who was behind it all. Was it a personal vendetta, a rival, or some kind of insurance scheme gone too far? The hospital tried to dismiss the clip as doctored audio, but nobody was buying it, especially not T. He slammed his phone down after listening to the recording for the 10th time. "That's them," he muttered. "I knew it. Somebody paid these people to do this." Tiny looked at him, her eyes filled with fear. "But why, Tip? Who would do that to King? He's just a kid." T didn't answer. His mind was racing, replaying every argument, every threat, every grudge they'd faced over the years. He thought about King's growing fame, his recent social media feuds, his bold interviews. Could someone have really gone this far to silence him? Meanwhile, as the investigation deepened, the FBI discovered another disturbing detail. Surveillance footage from the hospital had been tampered with. Entire sections of the recording from the night before King's surgery had been deleted. The agents couldn't trace who did it, but they knew it wasn't an outside hack. It was someone inside. Agent Morales returned to the family later that day. "Mr. and Mrs. Harris, we have reason to believe that one of the hospital administrators might be involved. We're bringing in more people for questioning." Tiny gasped. "You mean more arrests?" "Possibly," Morales replied. "But please stay quiet about this for now. The situation is extremely sensitive." But staying quiet was impossible. That evening, someone leaked an internal memo from the hospital board. An emergency meeting agenda titled Containment Strategy. Harris Incident. The memo mentioned controlling media damage and redirecting legal liability. It didn't take long for the public to connect the dots. The hospital was accused of covering up the truth from the very beginning. As protesters grew louder outside, T decided enough was enough. Stepping out with cameras flashing, he addressed the crowd directly. "I just want to thank everybody for praying for my son," he said, his voice shaking with emotion. "But I also want y'all to know we ain't gonna stop until we get justice. Whoever did this, whoever thought they could play with my family, they're gonna pay for what they did to King." The crowd erupted into cheers and chants. "Justice for King. Justice for King." That moment went viral instantly. T's raw pain and determination struck a chord with millions. Even celebrities who'd stayed silent began speaking out. Artists, athletes, and influencers posted the hashtag Justice for King, demanding accountability. But just as the family began to feel the weight of the world's support, another twist hit like a lightning bolt. A local reporter claimed to have obtained confidential documents from the FBI's early findings. According to her report, one of the arrested doctors, Dr. Mason, had secretly transferred a large sum of money into a private account just days before the surgery. The amount was $500,000, and the account was traced to an offshore company registered under a fake name, one that investigators suspected was linked to someone in the entertainment industry. The revelation shook the internet to its core. Who in the industry would do this? Fans asked. Was King targeted because of his music? Some pointed fingers at rival rappers who'd clashed with King online. Others speculated it was someone trying to send a message to T himself. But the biggest shock came hours later when a new rumor emerged, one that no one was prepared for. According to an anonymous source close to the investigation, the payment to Dr. Mason hadn't come from a stranger. It had allegedly come from someone within the hospital. Someone who'd been working closely with the Harris family since King's first medical check-up. The revelation sent chills through everyone who heard it. Could it be that someone the family trusted had betrayed them from the inside? Tiny couldn't stop crying that night. She sat by King's bed, whispering, "Baby Mama's here. Mama's not going anywhere." T stood beside her, his face hard as stone. "They think they can hide," he muttered. "But they can't hide from me. I'm gonna find out who did this." Outside, the world kept watching, waiting, speculating. Every news anchor, every blogger, every fan had one question burning in their mind: who was really behind King Harris's tragedy? And as the night grew darker, a new clue was about to surface. One that would blow the entire case wide open. The next morning began with a kind of eerie calm that felt almost unnatural after the storm of chaos that had swallowed the Harris family whole. The crowd outside the hospital had grown even larger. Cameras lined the streets and helicopters hovered overhead. But inside, everything was quiet, too quiet. Tiny had fallen asleep beside King's bed, her head resting against his hand while T paced the room restlessly. Still in the same clothes he'd been wearing for days, when the door finally creaked open, Agent Morales stepped in, holding a thin folder. Her expression was grave. "We've found something," she said softly. T froze mid-step. "What is it?" he demanded. She glanced at Tiny, who stirred awake, rubbing her eyes. "This isn't public yet," Morales continued. "But our team discovered a private email chain between the arrested surgeons and someone who used a fake identity. The messages discuss altering medical data and mention your son by name." Tiny gasped. "By name?" Morales nodded. "The messages talk about the Harris boys' scans and how they needed to be adjusted before the review. There's also mention of a payment approval code that matches one of the offshore accounts we traced yesterday." T's voice grew low. "And who's behind that fake identity?" Morales hesitated. "That's what's strange. The email address was created using an encrypted domain that masks user data. But we were able to recover part of the registration record. It links back to an IP address that's been used by someone who works in entertainment. Someone your son interacted with recently." T's eyes narrowed. "You're saying someone he knew." Morales sighed. "We're still confirming, but yes, someone he may have trusted." The words hit Tiny like a punch to the chest. "Trusted?" she whispered. "You mean one of his friends?" "Possibly," Morales said. "There's one name that keeps appearing in the messages. Jalen, does that name mean anything to you?" The room went silent. T's expression darkened immediately. "Jalen," he muttered. "That's his producer. They've been tight for months." Tiny shook her head in disbelief. No, not Jalen. He was always at the studio with King. He looked out for him." But Agent Morales didn't flinch. "We're not saying he's guilty, but the digital trail doesn't lie. He received multiple deposits from the same offshore account that paid Dr. Mason." T clenched his fists, his voice shaking with anger. "You telling me that boy set my son up?" Tiny burst into tears, covering her face. "He was like family." As the weight of the revelation sank in, Morales handed T the folder. Inside were printed screenshots of the emails, transaction logs, and message excerpts. One message stood out, sent just 2 days before the surgery. It read, "Make sure the procedure goes through as planned. He needs to be out of the picture for at least a while. We'll handle the rest." The sender was listed only as Jalen. The walls seemed to close in around T. He slammed the folder shut, pacing back and forth, muttering under his breath. "I knew something was off about that kid. I told King to be careful who he called his brother." Tiny looked at the machines beside King's bed, her tears falling silently. How could anyone do this to him? But before they could say another word, Agent Morales' phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, her expression shifting. "We've got him," she said quickly. "Jalen's been detained at his apartment in Atlanta. We're bringing him in for questioning." Within hours, news outlets everywhere carried the breaking story. King Harris producer arrested in connection with hospital tampering scandal. Fans were stunned. Social media erupted again, this time with disbelief and betrayal. "Not Jalen." One user posted, "He was like King's best friend." Another wrote, "This is straight out of a movie. Betrayal, corruption, everything." As the news spread, leaked footage of the arrest hit the internet. Jalen looked disheveled, yelling as officers led him away. "I didn't do anything. I was set up," he shouted, his voice cracking. That line was enough to reignite speculation. Was he really guilty, or just another pawn in something bigger? At the hospital, T watched the footage in silence. "Set up," he repeated coldly. "That's what they all say." Tiny touched his arm gently. "Tip, what if he's telling the truth?" T shook his head. "Truth or not, somebody used him. And I'm going to find out who." Later that evening, the FBI interrogated Jalen. According to leaked reports, he initially denied everything until they showed him the email records. After hours of questioning, he broke down. "I swear, I didn't know what they were going to do," he said, tears streaming down his face. "They told me it was just paperwork stuff, insurance stuff. I thought it was about the label's health plan for King, not his surgery. Who told you?" Agent Morales asked. He hesitated, wiping his face. "I don't know his real name. He called himself Mr. Coleman. Said he worked for a management company that wanted to sign King. He paid me to send some medical files over. I didn't think it was a big deal." Morales leaned forward. "Did you meet him?" Once Jalen said, "He showed up in a black SUV. Always wore shades. Talked real smooth. Said King was about to mess up some powerful people with what he was planning to release." "Release?" Morales frowned. "Release what?" Jalen hesitated again. "Song? King recorded something. He said it was about people in the industry doing dirty deals behind closed doors. He wanted to expose the truth. I didn't take him seriously. But maybe somebody else did." The agents exchanged glances. Suddenly, everything started to make sense. By the time the interrogation ended, the narrative had completely shifted. This wasn't just about medical negligence anymore. It was about silencing a voice that had become dangerous to the wrong people. News of this leaked too, spreading like wildfire. Hashtags changed overnight. Now it wasn't just hashtag justice for King. It was hashtag who is Coleman. Fans began digging, cross-referencing names, searching for anyone connected to King's label or management. Online detectives unearthed records of a mysterious executive known for working behind the scenes with artists who suddenly disappeared from the spotlight. Theories exploded. "This Coleman guy might be real," one user wrote. "He's probably one of those industry fixers who handle scandals." Another added, "If King was about to drop a diss track with real names in it, that could have been enough to make enemies." Back at the hospital, T received a secure call from Agent Morales. "We've identified a lead," she said. "The name Coleman traces back to a shell company that's been funding multiple record labels, including one that recently tried to sign your son." "They tried to sign him?" T asked, his voice low. "Yes, but he turned them down." Okay. T sighed deeply, running a hand over his face. "So this is what it's about. Control, money, power." Tiny sat quietly beside King, listening, her voice trembling. "He just wanted to make music," she whispered. "He didn't deserve this." The next day, agents raided an office building in downtown Atlanta linked to the shell company. Inside, they found encrypted hard drives, fake contracts, and documents that mentioned multiple artists. According to initial reports, some of those artists had also suffered mysterious medical incidents over the years, none of which were ever explained. When that news hit the internet, panic spread like wildfire through the entertainment world. People began to wonder how deep the corruption really went. Talk shows dissected the story, podcasts released emergency episodes, and fans filled comment sections with theories. By nightfall, a new video surfaced online. It was an old clip from one of King's live streams, just days before his surgery. In it, he laughed, sitting in his car saying, "They think they can scare me, but I'm not afraid of nobody. I'm going to tell the truth no matter what happens." Those words became legendary. People replayed the clip millions of times, quoting it in comments, using it as a rallying cry. "He tried to warn us," one fan wrote. King knew something was coming. Inside the hospital room, T watched that same clip with tears in his eyes. "He knew," he whispered. "My boy knew they were coming for him." Tiny reached for his hand, squeezing it tightly. "Then we finish what he started," she said softly. "We tell the world everything." But as they prepared to go public with what they knew, Agent Morales returned with chilling news. The man known as Mr. Coleman had vanished without a trace. His office was empty, his accounts wiped, his phone disconnected. It was as if he had never existed, and that's when T realized this wasn't over yet. Not even close. For the next 48 hours, Atlanta turned into a city under a cloud of mystery and fear. Every major news network was on constant broadcast. Every gossip blog was running wild, and every fan forum was burning with speculation. The name Coleman had become a ghostly symbol. No photos, no records, no confirmed identity. Just whispers of a man who pulled strings from the shadows and disappeared before the truth could. Reach him. Inside the hospital, T and Tiny were at their breaking point. King's condition had stabilized slightly, but he was still unconscious. His machines beeped rhythmically, the only sound in the tense silence that hung in the air. T sat beside him, gripping his hand tightly. "You gotta wake up, son," he whispered. "You gotta tell us what really happened." Tiny leaned against the window, her face pale and tired. "What if he never wakes up? Tip," she murmured. "What if we never get to hear his side?" T turned to her, his voice cracking. "Don't say that. He's strong. He's got your fight in him." Outside the room, Agent Morales was on the phone, pacing the hallway. "We found something," she said urgently to whoever was on the other end. A surveillance hit. A man matching Coleman's description was seen boarding a private jet out of Atlanta just hours after the arrests. Destination unknown. When she hung up and entered the room, her expression told them everything. "He's gone," T said quietly. "Isn't he?" Morales nodded. "For now. But we're not stopping. We've issued a federal warrant under multiple aliases." Tiny sighed. "And what about the doctors? Are they talking?" "Dr. Mason's confessed partially," Morales explained. "He admitted to altering the scans, but insists he didn't know the full plan. He says he was promised immunity and a payoff for following instructions. He thought it was just a favor for someone high up in the industry." T's anger simmered beneath the surface. "A favor that almost killed my boy." Morales looked down. "I know." The days that followed blurred together, a carousel of interviews, investigations, and endless speculation. Fans camped outside the hospital, holding signs and candles, chanting for justice. Everywhere T and Tiny looked, cameras followed. Every movement, every expression. Every tear was captured and broadcast to millions. And then, just when hope seemed to fade, something miraculous happened. On the morning of the 5th day, Tiny woke to the sound of a soft moan. She sat up instantly, heart racing. "Tip," she screamed. "Tip, come here." T bolted from the couch, rushing to King's bedside. His son's fingers twitched slightly, his eyelids fluttering. The monitors beeped faster. "King. It's Daddy. Son, can you hear me?" T said, his voice trembling. King groaned again, his lips barely moving. "Dad?" Tiny gasped, tears streaming down her face. "Oh my God, he's awake!" Within seconds, nurses rushed in, calling for the doctors. It was chaos. Joyful, chaotic relief. Tiny held King's hand tightly, whispering prayers of gratitude. T turned away, wiping his eyes. The news spread instantly. "King Harris wakes up from coma." The headlines screamed. Fans erupted online with joy. Videos of the moment Tiny stepped outside to tell the crowd went viral, her voice shaky but full of hope as she said, "My baby's awake. Thank you all for your prayers." But the joy didn't last long. Once King regained full consciousness, the nightmare began to unfold all over again. He was disoriented at first, struggling to remember what had happened. The doctors said it was normal, but T wasn't convinced. "Take your time, son," he said gently. "Just tell us what you remember." King blinked slowly, his voice weak. "I was in the studio. I remember getting these weird messages. Someone wanted me to meet about that track I recorded. They said it was important. I thought it was about a deal. Then, I don't know, my head started hurting real bad. Next thing I remember, I'm here." Tiny frowned. "What messages? From who?" "I don't know," King said, closing his eyes. "They called themselves Coleman. Said they could help me with my career." T exchanged a look with Agent Morales. The confirmation hit like a thunderclap. King himself had spoken directly with the same mysterious figure. "You did the right thing, son," T said softly. "You don't owe that man nothing." But King's next words sent chills through the room. He told me not to release the track. Said it would start a war. I didn't listen. Tani gasped. You released it. Not yet, King whispered. But it's on my hard drive at the studio. The one I locked before all this happened. T's jaw tightened. They tried to stop you before you could drop it. Agent Morales nodded grimly. And they almost succeeded. Within hours, federal agents swarmed King's recording studio, seizing his computer and backup drives. What they found stunned even the investigators, not just a song, but files containing text messages, voice recordings, and emails between major industry executives discussing payoffs, secret contracts, and blacklisted artists. King had unknowingly collected evidence that could expose one of the biggest corruption networks in entertainment history. It all made sense now. The surgery, the tampering, the cover-up, it wasn't random. It was a desperate attempt to silence a kid who'd stumbled onto something. Powerful news of the discovery leaked almost immediately. King Harris exposes major industry scandal. Read the headlines. Fans hailed him as a hero, calling him the truth speaker. Social media exploded with celebration and outrage. Other artists began speaking up too, revealing similar experiences and hinting that they'd also been threatened or manipulated. But amid the chaos, there was still no sign of Coleman. Every lead went cold. It was as if he had vanished from the face of the earth. Still, T refused to let the story die. He appeared on live TV, standing beside Tiny and Agent Morales. "We ain't afraid no more," he said firmly. "My son almost lost his life for telling the truth. Now we're going to make sure that truth comes out." The interview became one of the most watched broadcasts of the year. Fans cried, cheered, and raged. Everyone wanted justice, not just for King, but for every artist who'd been silenced. But the drama wasn't over yet. Just a week later, a new video appeared online. It showed a man in a dark suit, face hidden in shadow, speaking in a distorted voice. "You think you've won?" he said. "But this is only the beginning. Some truths are meant to stay buried." Then the screen cut to black dot. The internet erupted again. Was it Coleman? Was it a fake? Nobody knew. The FBI tried to trace the upload, but it had been routed through multiple encrypted servers. The mystery deepened. Some said Coleman had fled overseas. Others believed he was still watching from the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike back. Meanwhile, King continued to recover. Though weak, he began speaking publicly, thanking his fans for their prayers. In a short message posted to his Instagram, he wrote, "I ain't backing down. God gave me a second chance for a reason." The post received millions of likes within hours. The family began to heal, but scars remained both emotional and public. Trust was broken and fear lingered. T admitted in an interview that he still didn't sleep well at night. "Every time I hear a door creak, I think about that man, about how close we came to losing everything." Tiny added quietly, "This changed us forever. But it also showed us who's really with us, and who never was." By the end of the month, the FBI released an official statement confirming ongoing investigations into multiple entertainment companies. Several executives were arrested. Dr. Mason agreed to cooperate, revealing the network that had funded legal medical alterations and silencing tactics for years. The case became one of the biggest scandals in modern entertainment history. Documentaries were announced. Podcasts dissected every detail. Fans called it the Harris Conspiracy. And through it all, King, still recovering, still fragile, became a symbol of courage. His first words to the public after leaving the hospital were simple but powerful. Standing beside his parents, his voice still raspy, he said, "They tried to break me, but I'm still here." The crowd outside erupted into cheers, chanting his name. T wrapped an arm around him, tears glistening in his eyes. Tiny smiled through her own tears. The camera zoomed in on the family, battered but unbroken, standing together beneath the bright hospital lights. But even as the moment turned hopeful, the camera caught something strange. Parked at the edge of the street, a black SUV idled silently, the driver wearing dark shades. Watched the scene for a few moments before slowly pulling away. And though nobody noticed it then, that quiet departure left one question echoing in the air. Was it over? Or had the game just begun? And that, y'all, is where the story leaves us. A family forever changed. It's a young artist fighting for his life and his truth. And a mystery that still refuses to die. King Harris may have survived the surgery that nearly ended everything. But the shadow of what happened that night still hangs heavy over the industry. The arrests, the cover-ups, the missing man known only as Coleman. It's a story that keeps getting darker the deeper you dig. Some fans say it's justice. It's finally catching up to those who thought they were untouchable. Others believe this is just the tip of something much bigger, a network of power, greed, and silence that's been running things from behind the scenes for years. And honestly, after everything we've seen, who can say for sure what's real anymore? So here's the question. What do you think really happened? Was the brain surgery gone wrong just a tragic accident? Or was King Harris targeted because he knew too much? Do you believe the FBI got everyone responsible? Or is Coleman still out there waiting for his next move? Drop your theories in the comments right now because we want to hear what you think. Don't forget to hit that like button if you were shocked by this story. Subscribe so you never miss the next update. And turn on those notifications because this drama is far from over. Stay tuned. Stay curious, and remember, in Hollywood, nothing is ever just what it seems. Just what it seems.